maybe. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So no, yeah. Glad you guys didn't enjoy the chapter. So I didn't really enjoy it either. Although I don't do the rating
Such a
shit.
funny quote. Glad you guys didn't enjoy the chapter.
Well, I mean, I'm always glad when my actually no, that's I am happy when I enjoy something and I see someone that hates it, but it's for something I'm equipped to combat. In this case, I'm happy because there are people that seem to be echoing some stuff that I have grievances with too. Albeit, I'd be happy if someone like legitimately had like a counterpoint to some of my qualms. A lot of my qualms though are like stylist, like it's at the core of what Two Blue Vortex has been thus far. It just doesn't resonate with me. Like for instance, one thing I thought of while watching the like last 10 minutes of what you guys said is like I you guys I don't know how many people have seen my reaction, but one of the things that I was saying in my reaction is like there's this stark contrast between the emotional resonance I feel for Naruto and Boruto for like and you can narrow this down to even like the power-ups. Like Himawari getting the nine tails is like I liken it to, as something as minor compared to like transformations in the future. Not as minor as Sasuke not like unlocking his Sharingan, but just unlocking his third Tomoe. There's so much emotional resonance. It's not just about Sasuke getting a power up. It's about like Naruto poured his heart out to Sasuke for the first time in their rivalry, and then Sasuke, for one of the first times in their relationship, truly acknowledges him by wearing the head. There's so much that goes into it, and for these actions these two characters are committing, they're transcending at the same time, and it's so emotionally resonant, and it's so Kishimoto. Whereas, like every major thing I've seen in Two Blue Vortex thus far, it's like a cool power, but I don't feel like an emotional tether to it. And mind you, like what I feel for the Rasengan Uzuhiko is like super symbolic, and I had to do a lot of digging for that. Most of like the emotional resonance I feel for the transformations in Naruto that go into the themes of the story, you don't really have to dig; they're just there, and you feel it. But it's like it's just so I don't know. Like I get
Yeah.
though. Like fundamentally, I get that this is not Naruto's story. This is Boruto's story. We know that Boruto, his whole ninja way is kind of different from Naruto's idealism and mutual understanding, right? So it's not going to have the same emotional tether, right? But at least give me something. At least give me something that makes me feel something, right? I don't know.
Yeah, they
Like
just haven't given you
it's
any
not that I
reason to
don't get
care.
any of it. I get it. I get this is Boruto's story. This is who he is as a ninja. I love everything psychologically going on with the new antagonists, them trying to reach further in their humanity. It's just in this moment, this first part of this fucking new part of the story. Oh my fucking god, is it boring? It feels like this shit has gone on so long, but it feels like not much has even happened.
Yeah.
It's just been like a lot of elongated scuffles, and it's just like okay, Boruto
Com-
knows new jutsus. That's
Comparing
cool.
it to Naruto, especially with the power ups, it feels like the power ups center around the story almost as iconic landmarks. Because the scene with him unlocking the three Tomoe, it's not the three Tomoe that makes it interesting or special. It's what happens in the scene, and him unlocking it also happens in the scene, and that's what we can point to physically as a tangible thing. It's like an iconic landmark as opposed to Boruto, it feels like everything is just going through the motions.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I'm a big defender of Part One Boruto.
Yeah.
Not in terms of like,
All of us are in this
yeah,
podcast right
like
now.
while I still don't like Ikamoto's style, I don't necessarily care much for the manga experience. Just the story of Part One, I really, really vibe with. I think it does a lot of good for the Naruto verse. So it's a shame that I feel this way for Two Blue Vortex, where I feel like nothing going on is truly engaging me. Whereas I can think back to part one and think of multiple instances. But again, like the thing is, this is 11 chapters, right? I understand that. Shippuden had its the first two arcs of Shippuden is the worst of part two, Naruto. But like it was still really engaging. But then again, Naruto in general, I find more engaging than Boruto holistically. But maybe it could very well be that this beginning section is just the drag. It's like Shippuden in that vein. It's kind of dragging a little bit. It's just for me, it's dragging so much to the point where I've read 11 chapters now. I haven't really enjoyed one of them extensively. I've enjoyed certain segments of certain chapters. So I can't say I haven't enjoyed any of it because I have. Um, but I think that's enough, especially because this is a monthly series and the chapters are longer. I think that's enough for me to say, okay, I'm going to wait for this to conclude and then I'll pick it back up to see if it has any merit after this point that I'm dropping.
Yep.
Because I think it does. Because I think a lot of the promises of the future, with like, again, these new enemies tackling their inner humanity and seeing what that means for beings that aren't human and being attached to humanity in a certain way, and the Shibai promise for the future, all those promises are really intriguing, and I want to see where that leads. It's just right now I'm so disengaged that I have yeah, like every stream of mine has been really sad because I want, when I stream, I want to enjoy what I'm reading, and I want people to enjoy it with me, but I'm just sitting there complaining. It feels like I see the audience complaining, bro. Like I feel even worse than the audience. I don't want to do a stream like that. Like that's the same reason I dropped JJK.
Yeah, you just don't care, and that's
So yeah,
not your fault. It's just the story.
Yeah. My only thing though is, I don't want to be negative about it, but comparing to Shippuden's first arc, I understand it's a slow burn. Some people might not be as engaged because of that. But with Two Blue Vortex here, I don't think the problem is the same because this isn't really a slow burn. Like they are in the meat of the action. Like we have so many quote unquote big things happening. The problem is the build up to them and just the care behind it. A lot of things happen, but there's no narrative reason why it's happening. It just is happening. Inojin just got stabbed and got healed, and it just happened. There was no reason to care about any of that, just as an example. I think, for me at least, that's what's making it disinteresting, not the plot events being uninteresting. It's just there's no narrative interest in there.
yeah.
And that's where it scares me about it. I'm always going to read it because I can't help myself, but yeah.
But for me, holistically, there's narrative interest in the promises I made. But like even, and again, I'm going to keep doing this, and even if people find qualms with it, I don't care because Boruto is a direct continuation of Naruto, so I'm always going to compare these two series. I mean, it makes the most sense to compare them, right?
Yeah.
We've seen something very similar to the Himawari scene. You guys remember what scene it's happened with Naruto, where she gets a power up.
I've done a lot
One
of
of the first things she
comparisons.
does is
I
kill
would
someone.
I would compare it to Naruto and Sasuke versus Haku.
That was
Well, I know
that or Hinata in the pain arc
Yeah.
when she gets stabbed.
I was thinking way later. No, when in the war arc, when Naruto gets his final power up from Hagoromo, and the first thing he does is heal Guy. You guys know what I'm talking. Of course, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, there's a big difference with that though, which I want to save for later.
Yeah, well, the thing is though, is they run along the same parallels because it's Naruto getting a power up and then healing a comrade, right? It's when you narrow it down, it becomes that. And the interesting part about Naruto's instance is there was so much emotional resonance about it because, and this is where you got to do a little bit of digging. I go into this in my big Sasuke video, but the fact of the matter is, it's, well, who grants Naruto this ability to be revived and have this new power? Well, it's Obito, the man his Talk no Jutsu saved, and therein by that curse that Obito inflicted on Naruto back as a child, where he took his parents from him and put a fucking beast in him, or he was responsible for that. He now comes back with the very same power, but this time it's to preserve his life and aid it, right? And it's so beautiful poetically. It's so fucking beautiful. And what does Naruto do with that? He lets Guy, the man who literally sacrificed his shinobi career to give Naruto and Sasuke just the littlest bit of time they needed to transcend, he gives him an opportunity to at least live and see the flowers he grew or planted bloom. It's so fucking, it's so emotionally resonant. This is what I mean with like Himawari and stuff. Like this power up should be important. I should be feeling something. But for Kurama not only coming back, but Himawari, an integral character, especially now in Two Blue Vortex, having this insane power and having a power our main character had the entire fucking series. He used it in Land of Waves. The fact that I don't even feel half of what I feel for Naruto's power up with Hagoromo is ludicrous. It's honestly just ludicrous. Like
Exactly.
I should at least be feeling half of that energy, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's night and day.
When you strip away the nuance and especially the depth, and you're just left with the basic bare bone plot points, the skeleton or the bones of the story, that's what Two Blue Vortex is. It just lacks all that. Like, it's the same thing or similar beats in the story, but it lacks everything that makes it special. And I think excusing it by saying, well, it's only 11 chapters isn't fair, because one, it's not just been 11 chapters, it's been 11 months. If you compare that to Naruto, that's 40 something chapters, probably 40, maybe even 50. If you compare it in terms of length page wise, it's still like 30 to 40 chapters. And so that's basically the entirety of the Kazekage rescue arc, is what we're comparing it to right now. In that arc, whatever you want to say about the pacing, at least it had the depth that actually added something to the story. Me and Kamui did
You know what
a
I just thought
23-minute video comparing the two.
You know what just occurred to me? All of Two Blue Vortex thus far has been the worst of the Kazekage rescue, which is when Team Guy is fighting the fake Akatsuki members. That is literally the worst of it. And I would put that on par with all the shit we've seen in Two Blue Vortex. Literally the little minute part, not even like near, maybe like 1% of Kazekage rescue. That, I think, is akin to Boruto Two Blue Vortex. Like, if Kazekage Rescue was just that, I might have fucking dropped it, but it's not. It's so much more than that, right? Because even like, people say, the first two arcs, even though I appreciate them more than most people, albeit I still have qualms with Kazekage Rescue, especially in regards to Lee. But the overarching arc, everything we got, it was so entertaining. Sakura, literally, some peak moments. Her extended fight was great with Sessor. Dude, it's so good. But I mean, a little, like, if we're that's not necessarily fair, because I'm comparing all of Kazekage Rescue to an arc in Two Blue Vortex that hasn't even concluded. But you guys get me. Like, so already, like, okay, going back to the beginning of Kazekage Rescue, Naruto coming back, the bell training, cool shit, fucking Gara being Kazekage, got the fight with new Akatsuki members, revelation. Yeah, all that stuff. The fight between Datara and Gara literally gets BTFO'd. So it's like, fuck, man, is Gara gonna die? Like, I don't know. All that stuff was like, but see, this is where I always caveat. Because I try to be careful when I criticize anything. I try to be super fucking careful. It could be that, to me, felt a lot better because when I was reading it, it was Kishimoto illustrating it, and I just fucking love Kishimoto's illustrations so much more than Ikemoto's, to the point where it literally affects the way I perceive the story. Probably it does. I don't want to say, I don't know for sure, but it probably does. So I have to lay my biases bare when I say this. So I've got to kind of caveat. I don't know. I don't know if it's all necessarily narrative. But yeah.
Yeah, which is funny because I agree with you. When I criticize something, especially criticizing as opposed to praising, I gotta know myself. I have to know exactly what I'm talking about. Otherwise, my criticism is just dust in the wind. It's meaningless, empty words. Because I don't know what I'm talking about. If you know what you're talking about, that's because you got to convince people. It's way easier to convince people of something being good than it is to convince people of something being bad. And so it's hilarious. You look like you were saying on your stream, because I watched your reaction right before doing this actually. Look at your channel. You know Naruto. Not only that, you have a background in writing. I think you graduated from college with a screenwriting degree. So you, of all people, are qualified to discuss this. And your comment section, one of the comments, or maybe it was a comment in the actual live reaction, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. You, of all people, know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I responded to that comment, by the way. I literally have an entire video defending Boruto and praising it. So, and not only that, but literally my last Naruto video that's unlisted, you can see on my Twitter account, the parts that I do show. But literally the last, even on the Twitter account, the last clip that I show is the final section of that video, talking all about literally Two Blue Vortex and praising that, because of the something I picked up from the symbolism I picked up from Two Blue Vortex. I thought was really fucking cool. Just, again, going back to what I said earlier, it's not like I don't appreciate anything about Two Blue Vortex. It's just not enough.
Yeah. Like, for example, in this chapter, the Hidari part, this is like my Stano part. Hidari saying he doesn't know who he is and blah, 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 asking Sarada who you are. Like, that was probably my favorite part of the chapter. There are elements that are good. It's just, I think if I was gonna rate the good, it's like the good parts in Two Blue Vortex are pretty good Naruto moments, but the bad parts of Two Blue Vortex are, I hate to say it, are just very, very narratively bad. And that's the problem. It's just the good isn't outweighing the bad at all.
And if you only praise half of it, the comment section sees that as not just criticism of all of it, but hatred of all of it. You gotta praise all of it, or you're praising none of it. You hate all of it.
Boruto defenders are crazy, man. But well, I mean, a lot of them are, not all of them.